Hello, Debbie. I'm waiting from Tasmania to London.
Well, hello, Jessica. Here's my new book, launched on the Taurus new moon. I thought would be very auspicious as this lovely moon is sextile to Neptune. So the launching of spiritual material, and this is What's Your Soul Sign, it's called, I think is an idea whose moment has come. So it's great to be with you. It's so wonderful that we can connect, isn't it? Yes. Just so readily and easily. And in fact, this will go to be seen all over the world as well. That is the benefit of Uranus in Taurus. I think it's speeding our lives up in terms of the technology. It's just making everything so accessible, isn't it?
It is. So it's changed business, hasn't it? So we now do our business on Zoom, obviously.
Totally. Yeah. Everything. I mean, it's just astounding how, mobilized we've all become, kind of in our heads, not in our bodies. It's taken us, sort of locked us into our bodies. But in fact, in terms of the internet, in terms of what's out there in the ether or the astral, there's just so much movement. There's so much air traffic going on up here, I think, at the moment with Zoom. It's quite exciting.
How do you think it's affected your readers and also your clients, this transit of Uranus through Taurus?
Yes. Well, obviously, COVID has been a time where everybody has been soul searching. But even before that, I felt when Uranus first came into Taurus in 2018, that there was this shift that was happening. People were restless. They're kind of starting to really search for something a bit different. And those that were not aligned with this idea of change and sort of embracing change had change kind of thrust upon them somewhat unceremoniously, as is, the Uranus calling card. It can be a real jolt to the system. It can feel just so earth shattering. And it really, has called into question our whole notions of, what safety and security really means, whether this is, our homeland, our lives, our bodies, where we've always felt at home. We think of home as being Cancerian, but there's also being at home in our bodies, and which is very much the domain of Taurus. And I think Uranus has just been so shocking and kind of, sped everything up in terms of adrenaline. We've all been living in Adrenaline City. So I think what it's really challenged is the whole idea of permanence, which is such a Taurian concept. Taurus is all about attachment, isn't it? What we can kind of hook into, and it's everything that's forever, our forever home, our forever job, our forever whatever. And actually, we've all had to become Buddhists in a way and really embrace this law of impermanence. And, in many ways that is, an awakening. And the more we can let go of our attachments and expectations, because as an astrologer, you know this. I mean, the first thing you tell anybody about Uranus is, expect what you don't expect. And they kind of go, well, you're the astrologer. Don't you know exactly? I go, if I knew, then it would take away the surprise. That's the whole point of it. It's supposed to, come at you and, turn things around in areas that you least expected. But in terms of our expectations, that's another Taurian thing, because if we get everything in our lives into this stable position, into our comfort zone, then we have expectations that, we've cracked it, we've cracked the code, and that we can maintain and sustain and preserve everything, which we can up to a point, but life isn't like that, as we know. And the planets deliver their message and their codes for our own evolution. This is about our soul growth. And we need to face our fear of change and to look at the excitement of Uranus. Uranus is so exciting. And, COVID has brought this home, and awful as it's been in many ways, it's also given many people kind of like permission to think outside of the box, another Uranian feature about how they can work, where they can live. And it's kind of released them from the chains. So I think in a way it's very much a sort of double-edged sword. Especially, money as well. Money is very Taurian. That's changing. Cashless society, crypto, everything's going digital. And that will continue. So until, 2026, when, it finally leaves, there's just this sense that, we're all on notice that nothing is going to remain the same. We're all on this wave, this frequency. And it ties in very much, I think, with the other planets moving into Aquarius. Pluto will move in there in 2023. Obviously, we've got Saturn there, Jupiter just on the cusp of Aquarius and Pisces as we speak. But this sort of feeling of, can we get into this Aquarian vibe, even if we're Taurian, or in the areas of our life where we want to hunker down as a Taurian. So I think it's very much the zeitgeist. I think Uranus is really doing its job, isn't it? Delivering its message.
Is to put your four hooves in the ground, isn't it? So the symbolism of the bull is
stay there.
I shall not be moved.
No, it is the immovable object I frequently refer to it. And that is, in a way to be admired, the resilience, the endurance, the staying power of Taurus. I mean, it is fantastic. And in many ways, because of, the recycling and the repurposing of things, we are looking at the past a bit more now and thinking, how can we make things last? We don't want to be a throwaway society, because that in itself isn't sustainable. So, this, plays into the endurance of Taurus and the wonderful sense that of the true value of something that can last a lifetime, perhaps. So yes, I think that there is an upside to being able to kind of stick something out. But on the other hand, it's like, it's like a yoga move, isn't it? Can we be flexible? Can we keep our feet on the ground, but be flexible and bendy with it? I think that's the Uranus in Taurus. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a good physical way of containing what's going on out there. A bit of yoga will help ground people, but keep them bendy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Note to self.
Do you go into this in your book, Debbie? Do you talk about the Taurus, the North Node, for example, going into Taurus?
I am talking about the nodes. I'm talking more about people's natal charts, because there's only so much I can cover in this book. I didn't want it to be a cookbook that had, a little bit of everything. So it's very much about what Uranus means in your own chart, but also the themes of Uranus if you have Uranus aspecting your personal planet. So I go into that. And I go into the generational waves as well, what wave you're born into. I think that's very interesting. But yes, there is this sense of the nodes obviously moving now from Gemini, moving in 2022 into Taurus. That's going to follow all of this through. So this is about the karma of the planet, because the nodes are very karmic. And of course, when the North Node is in Taurus, the South Node is in Scorpio. So we're looking at where we've been, perhaps, in many ways, the architects of our own destruction when it comes to the planets. And what about corruption and all that sort of shadow side of Scorpio? But, being a Scorpio myself, I always like to point out that Scorpio has its healing quality, the renewal, the rebirth. So in releasing the negatives, we can regrow everything that will sustain us in a much healthier and purer way. But, I think that it's really going to happen, perhaps, that's sort of been swept under the carpet, and it's all going to surface. But the South Node in Scorpio can give the potential, the phoenix rising from the ashes, this sense that out of this crisis, and crisis, the crisis of COVID is a crucible for something new to be born. I mean, it is an opportunity of awakening and awareness. So, something had to happen, I think, in order to change the world. And this is it.